Assalamu alaikum and Ramadan Mubarak is the second day of a second Jummah of this month, and this is the second show of the Sports Wrap with me, Malaika. So I'm gonna be telling you about all the sports that's happened over the weekend and then the past week, and then I'll keep you guys updated for the show that's gonna come on for the weekend and then the week ahead. So let's get straight into it. I am going to be starting talking about the Cricket World Cup. Today, New Zealand play England in a must-win game for New Zealand. If New Zealand win, they are through to the semi-finals. If they don't, Pakistan have a chance. But I do think Pakistan's chances are slim. But yeah, Pakistan need New Zealand to lose. But you never know what's going to happen, and they will need to beat Sri Lanka. But New Zealand have won the toss and they've opted to bat first, and they've decided to make no changes to their team. While England have made one change, and that is Rian Ahmed came in for Jamie Overton. So finally, Rian Ahmed is having a chance to play, and that is great. Sorry for the mic stuff. I don't know what's happening there. Let me just try to put it lower. So they made no changes in New Zealand, and they were amazing against Sri Lanka. It was just one of those games where they really showed up. And I do think that if New Zealand and Pakistan did play, because their match did get abandoned, I think New Zealand would have got the job done. So on Thursday, Group 2 was hitting full throttle as the race for the semi-finals intensified, with the tournament heavyweights beginning to separate themselves from the chasing pack. So Aiden Markram, the South Africa captain, led from the front with a superb 82 not out from 46 balls as South Africa dismantled the West Indies by 9 wickets to preserve their unbeaten record at the 2026 T20 World Cup, sending a strong message to their rivals. So South Africa are currently the only team that are unbeaten in the tournament so far. They played India over the weekend on Sunday and they destroyed them. So they are cementing themselves as one of the favourites. But it might be one of those where they might be unbeaten, but once they get to this final, they will lose. So later on that day, defending champions India showed off their batting class in emphatic fashion, brushing aside Zimbabwe with ease to keep their own last 4 ambitions firmly on track. So Zimbabwe yesterday beat West Indies by 9 wickets. West Indies batted first and they made 176 for 8. Romario Shepherd made 52 not out of 37 balls, and Lungi Ngidi took 3 for 30. And then South Africa made 177 for 1 in 16.1 overs. They were ruthless. So Aiden Markram made 82 not out from 46 balls, and then also Quinton de Kock made 47 of 24 balls. And it was an amazing game, to be honest. It shows how strong, South Africa are. And then India beat Zimbabwe. Last week I said I really wanted an upset to be caused, but it's been really unfortunate, to be honest, with Zimbabwe, because they were unbeaten in the group stages, but once they've gone to the Super 8, it's like the teams have showed their quality. So I'm having another troubles with the mic, but So India made 256 for 4. So that is the second highest T20 score in the World Cups in history. The first one was Sri Lanka, and they made that in 2007. So they made 256 for 4, and Abhishek Sharma made 55 of 30 balls, and then Hardik Pandya made 50 not out of 23 balls. He smashed it at the end, and I was like, oh my gosh, because he hasn't been making that much runs this tournament so far, and he was unreal, absolutely incredible. So on Wednesday, the co-hosts Sri Lanka were knocked out of the T20 World Cup after they slumped to a heavy defeat against New Zealand, their second loss of the Super 8s following an earlier setback against England. Despite having New Zealand under pressure for a large part of the first innings, Sri Lanka failed to capitalise on a dominant position as Mitchell Santana orchestrated a stunning late counter-attack. From there, the momentum shifted decisively, and Sri Lanka were unable to mount a response, bringing their tournament to a disappointing end. So New Zealand won by 61 runs. They batted first and they made 168 for 7. Satna made 47 of 26 balls, and Tikshana took 3 for 30. So Sri Lanka were in a good position. It was a game that they should have won, but then Mitchell Satna came in and made a quick 5 47. So and then Sri Lanka, I think their batting has really cost them. At the start of the group stages, they were really good, both bat and ball. I think with some injuries that they've suffered, it's really made them, poor batting wise. And I think even against their game against England, they just didn't show up with the bat. I think they have incredible bowlers, they have world class bowlers, but their batting has really let them down this tournament. So yeah, Sri Lanka made 107 for 8 out of the 20 overs. Rachin Ravindra took 4 for 27 and Matt Henry took 2 for 3. So Matt Henry struck in his first ball on his first over, so the first over of the innings, and then on the second over he struck on his first ball again. So yeah, he really set the damage quite early, didn't he? But yeah, on Tuesday, England cemented their place in the semi-finals, and they were the first team to do so. I did an article on them before the World Cup started on why aren't they strong contenders for this World Cup. Obviously, we all know India and South Africa, but with England, I thought they were strong favourites, and I think I'm being proven right here. So they were the first team to book their place in the semi-finals, and they were It was an amazing game, the England vs Pakistan game. It was powered by a sensational century from Harry Brook, and it will be remembered as one of the most defining knocks of the tournament, to be honest. In a high-pressure chase, Brook delivered a true captain's performance and scoring the bulk of the runs and holding the innings together when wickets were falling around him. And without him, England would have lost. I'm really sure that they would have lost this game. So I'm just going to give you a bit of a backstory here. So it's England vs Pakistan. Pakistan batted first, and they were okay. I wouldn't say they were the best with the bat. A lot of the times they did give their wickets away. I think the star player with the bat was Farhan, and he made another 50. So yeah, I think he has been the star player for Pakistan. And I think, I know I spoke about it last week about the 100 and the Indian teams not trying to pick Pakistan players, but he should be the first player that people pick because he's been incredible and he's been on such great form. So yeah, he made runs once again, and I think he is the highest run scorer in this tournament so far. And yeah, they didn't make that much runs with the bat, to be honest. Pakistan didn't. But incredible with the ball, they were amazing. So Shaheen Shah Afridi, he wasn't meant to be in the team. For him, Ashraf got ill. He was injured, so he wasn't fit for this match. So he came into the side and he struck with his first ball of the over, and it reminded me of the old Shaheen Shah Afridi, where the batters were scared of him, and he'd always take a wicket in his first over. And I know this past year and the last 2 years he hasn't been the same, but this game showed flashes of his old self. And just to let you guys know, he is only 25 years old. But yeah, so he got out. He bowled Phil So out for 0, a golden duck. And I thought, yeah, this is the perfect time, this is the perfect chance. Harry Brook came into number 3. That wasn't his original position. Jacob Bethel for the past couple of games has been batting at number 3. But, Harry Brook came in at number 3, and I think it was a great decision. Speaking about it after the game, Harry Brook was like, this wasn't on me. This was Brendan McCullum talking about this. And it did make sense, to be honest, because knowing Brook, he is a great batter. He is one of the best batters in the world, and I felt like him batting at 5 didn't really do him justice. And now when he batted at 3, he made 100 runs. So I feel like they should continue that. But yeah, Harry Brook always scores against Pakistan. I think Pakistan really helped his career thrive though, in a way, because he started playing the PSL, he played for the Hawklanders, and he was phenomenal for them. And then he got into the England team, and then he stopped playing the PSL and he started playing the IPL, but he hasn't been playing the IPL for the past 2 seasons now. So yeah, Harry Brook always was scoring against Pakistan, and he did the same on Tuesday. Frustrating watch as a Pakistan fan, but amazing watch as a neutral. So yeah, Pakistan had hope, especially after the early breakthroughs, but Brooks single-handedly dismantled all of that, and it was incredible. It did get close towards the end, and England did only win by 2 wickets because their middle order collapsed once again. I feel like that is causing them a lot of problems, and I feel like they need to fix something. I know they brought in Rian Ahmed for this game that they're playing against New Zealand, but is it too little, too late? Also, Jos Buttler hasn't been in the best form either. So it's now they're going to play a semi-final. It might be against India. India are the favourites. So it's is it too late that you haven't tried Ben Duckett, for example, in the opening position? Haven't tried Brook, because Buttler he is an incredible player. He's a world-class player, and he'll always be remembered as one of the best batters in the world. But right now, he isn't demonstrating that. And I feel like in T20 cricket, you need your openers to fire. And I know for the last couple of finals that England have been in, or like the intense games, Phil Salt is incredible throughout the whole tournament. But when it's like an important game, like, you know, a match where he needs to make runs, he doesn't. And I feel like you need the person on the other side to be making runs. And before, they used to get away with it with Butler, but now I don't know, because Butler, he isn't making the runs. I don't know. He might get his form again against India and make a quick, 50. Hopefully that is the case, but we never know. And yeah, it is crazy, to be honest. On Monday, West Indies produced a dominant all-round performance to beat Zimbabwe by 107 runs in their opening Super 8 match. The victory was built around a breathtaking innings from Sharma Hetmyer and a clinical bowling display led by the left-arm spin duo Gudakesh Moti and Akil Hussain. The West Indies won by 107 runs, so Hetmyer made 85 runs off 34 balls, and Roman Powell made 59 of 35 balls, and then Zimbabwe got all out for 147 in the 17.4s over. So it's like, Zimbabwe coming into the Super 8, so they weren't favourites. Like, no one expected them to be Australia to be unbeaten, but they were. And then these Super 8s, it's been like the other team's class has been showing. So with West Indies, I did rule them out as one of the favourites, and I didn't think they were going to be favourites, because with their past history with like the ODI World Cup, they didn't qualify for that. So I was thinking with this, it's probably one of those tournaments that, yeah, they'll have a few good games, so they won't get it over the line, but it's all to play for between West Indies and India for a place in the semis. I do think India might do it, especially after West Indies' performance against South Africa. But who is out to rule them? Because West Indies did win their World Cup in India. The last time they won a World Cup, they won it in India. So I love all these fairy tales, so it might happen again. So yeah, I really hope it does. Sharma Hetmyer has been incredible for the West Indies, and their batting has been amazing. Like Roman Powell, Romario Shepherd, they have the players that hit the big shots. And in T20 cricket, that's what you need. That's what you want for us to thrive. And yeah, it's been working out well for them, to be honest. The South Africa game was one to forget, but it's one of those games that it does happen. South Africa are the only unbeaten team. So this game that they're going to play against India is going to be a close one. I hope they get over the line, but India do have quality. So yeah, on the weekend, the Super 8s delivered drama from the outset as both hosts, Sri Lanka and India, they lost. England brushed aside Sri Lanka in a comfortable win built on disciplined bowling, although their batting again showed signs of fragility. I spoke about this earlier. It's like they can bowl well. Some of their batters can save them, but it's like the middle order, they are struggling, and I feel like that needs to get fixed ASAP. In the day's marquee clash, it was a repeat of the 2024 T20 World Cup final. South Africa thrashed India by 76 runs to underline their title credentials and hand the previously unbeaten holders a heavy blow. And the Pakistan and New Zealand game that was meant to be played on Saturday was abandoned. The toss happened, but too much rain, and the points were shared. These contests ensured the tournament rolled back to life in empathetic fashion. So yeah, co-host Sri Lanka are out, Zimbabwe out, Pakistan, New Zealand, West Indies and India all are in contention for the last two semi-final spots. My prediction is that New Zealand will progress through to the semi-finals, and it will be India. And then I think it's going to be South Africa versus New Zealand and England versus India. And yeah, I'm all for surprises and upsets, but we'll never know what happens until we see what happens at the end of this game today. So yeah, we're going to the football now, the Champions League. There wasn't that much drama with the Champions League this time round. On Tuesday, Atletico Madrid beat Club Brugge 4-1 on the day and then 7-4 on aggregate. Leverkusen drew with Olympiacos 0-0, but were leading 2-0 on aggregate, so they went through. And then Bodo Glimt beat Inter Milan 2-1 and 5-2 on aggregate. And then Newcastle beat Karabakh 3-2 and then 9-3 on aggregate to go book their places in the quarterfinals of the Champions League. And then on Wednesday, Atalanta beat Dortmund 4-1 and then 4-3 on aggregate. And then Juventus beat Galatasaray 3-2. The game went to extra time, but Galatasaray won 7-5 on aggregate. And Galatasaray scored 2 goals in extra time to seal their spot into the quarterfinals. And I was hoping that a game would have gone to penalties, but it didn't. And I think Galatasaray really showed what they're about, beating Juventus. But then I was reading an article, I think it was yesterday, about there's a concern for the Serie A because obviously Inter Milan, the last year's finalists, they didn't go through. They aren't through to the quarterfinals. Even Juventus. So it's like you expect these type of teams to go through to the quarterfinals. That it's crazy. Obviously on Wednesday, Atalanta beat Dortmund. I already talked about this actually. Yeah, beat Juventus. And then PSG drew with Monaco 2-2, but on aggregate PSG won 5-4. And yeah, they're through, the reigning champions. And then Real Madrid beat Benfica 2-1 on the day, and then 3-1 on aggregate. Vinicius Junior scored again for Real Madrid in this game, and it was amazing to see. At the start of the game, there was like a banner saying no to racism, and the player that allegedly racially abused Vinny was not playing this game. And then I think it was revealed yesterday that he did call Vinny a monkey, but he said that he's not racist. But like, if you put two and two together, that means you are racist. But we won't get into that right now. And then yesterday, Nottingham Forest lost 2-1 to Fenerbahce in the Europa League, but they won 4-2 on aggregate to progress through to the quarterfinals. And also, Crystal Palace were also successful yesterday. They beat Drink 2-0 and 3-1 on aggregate to progress through. Now, the draw took place today. It took place at 11 a.m. for the Champions League, and then like 12 for the Europa League, and then for the Europa Conference League. So I have all the fixtures written down, and we'll talk about them right now. So Chelsea will play the Holsters, Paris Saint-Germain, and Manchester City will play Real Madrid. I'm looking forward to that game, and that's for a 5th straight season. So I'm loving that people love to see this game, and you don't really get sick of it. And it's crazy, to be honest. 6 Premier League sides have qualified for the last 16, but there are no English ties, which is great to see. Arsenal will face Bayer Leverkusen. I think Arsenal do have the easiest road to the final, but we'll get into that later. I'm having trouble with this mic again. Newcastle United will face Barcelona, which is amazing. I can't wait to see that. Liverpool take on Galatasaray. Liverpool did play Galatasaray in like the league phase, and they lost to Galatasaray. So it's going to be I think it's going to be a great game. I hope Liverpool get it over the line, but with how Galatasaray beat Juventus the other day, I think it will be another close game. So yeah, and then Tottenham have been drawn against Atletico Madrid. I think we know that Tottenham haven't been the best in the league, but I think this is going to be a good game. I really hope so. And the first legs will be played on the 10th and the 11th of March. And then the second leg will take place on the 17th and 18th of March. So Newcastle are at home. And then all the other Premier League teams are away first leg. And then on the second leg, they're home. So Chelsea's tied with PSG is a rematch of the last year's FIFA Club World Final, where the Blues beat PSG 3-0 in New Jersey. So this game has a lot of history to it, and I can't wait for it. I do think that PSG will get the job over the line, and I do think that PSG will probably get to the final once again, or to the semis, because they're just one of those teams that it was like the same. They had the same type of path last season where they didn't make it. They didn't automatically qualify. They had to play a knockout game. They beat their team. They got into the final. They beat Liverpool. I think it was in the quarters. And then they beat Arsenal. And then they beat Inter in the final. So I think it's probably going to be like that same type of journey. Or if not, they might get through to the finals and then just be one short. So Manchester City, Newcastle and Liverpool all met their opponents during the league phase of this season's competition, with City's win in Madrid in December, their 9th meeting with Real since April 2022. So they played 9 times in like 4 years. Crazy, and they don't play in the same league. So the route to the final is already known, and if Newcastle and Tottenham both will progress, they will meet in the quarterfinals, as will Chelsea and Liverpool in the other half of the draw. So the final will be played at the Puskas Arena in Budapest, Hungary, on the Saturday 30th of May. So this is how it will be. So PSG are facing Chelsea and Galatasaray facing Liverpool. Whoever beats their team. So if PSG beat Chelsea and Liverpool beat Galatasaray, it will be PSG versus Liverpool, and that'll be in the quarterfinals. And then it's Real Madrid versus Manchester City, and then it's also Atlanta versus Bayern Munich. So, for example, if Manchester City win and Bayern Munich win, it'll be Manchester City versus Bayern Munich in the quarterfinals. And then whoever wins that, so if, for example, if Bayern Munich win and PSG win, it'll be PSG versus Bayern Munich in the semi-finals. So then moving on to the Newcastle. So Newcastle United play Barcelona. Whoever wins that goes through to the quarterfinals. Then it's Atletico Madrid versus Tottenham. Whoever wins that. So, for example, if Barcelona win and Atletico Madrid win, there will be Barcelona versus Atletico Madrid in the semi-final, in the quarterfinals. Sorry, and then also it's Bodo Glimt versus Newcastle Barcelona versus Atletico Madrid in the quarterfinals, and then whoever wins that. So, for example, if Barcelona win that and Real Madrid win the other quarterfinals, it'll be Real Madrid versus Barcelona in the semis. So yeah, then it's Bodo Glimt versus Sporting, which is one of the weakest games of the competition. If Bodo Glimt win and the other game is Bayer Leverkusen versus Arsenal, if Arsenal win that, it'd be Bodo Glimt versus Arsenal, and then whoever wins that progresses through to the semis. So yeah, I do think Arsenal do have the easiest route to the final. They are currently unbeaten in the league phase, and yeah, crazy to be honest. I do think they might get the job done, and I think they should get to the final, and they're also top of the Premier League. So yeah, it's looking good for them. In the Europa League, Nottingham Forest will face Denmark. And yeah, in the Europa Conference League, it will be Crystal Palace will face, let me see who it is, the Akla Luxra. Sorry for mispronouncing that, but they will face them to roll to the Leipzig. Now we talk about the Winter Olympics. I feel like I've been going on for a very long time, and now we're slowly approaching an ad break. But yeah, the Winter Olympics, the curtain had come down to the Milan Cortina 2026 Winter Olympics, and what a way it was to finish. The closing ceremony took place at the historic Verona Arena, even none of the sporting events were held in the city itself. And yeah, the night opened with a tribute to classical Italy opera, with performances and giant Adria-inspired props setting the scene as flag bearers from 92 nations entered the stadium. The Olympic flame, known as the Drop of Fire, was carried into the ancient arena in a small glass vessel, lighting up the famous run before athletes made their way in. So earlier on in the day, the final medals of the games were decided in the men's and women's 50 km mass start cross-country skiing events, followed by a tribute to the thousands of volunteers who made the games possible. And then it was a historic game for Team GB. I didn't know this coming into this, but Team GB won 3 golds in the Winter Olympics. That's the first time they've done that, and they won 5 medals altogether, which is their best. That they got that in 2014, and they also got that in 2018. So yeah, Team GB are improving in the Winter Olympics, so that's nice to see. There was a bit of drama though in the Olympics, as there always is, and that's with the United States. So the United States celebrated a major milestone in ice hockey, winning both the men's and women's gold medals for the first time at the same Winter Olympics. But the achievement was partly overshadowed by the controversy after comments from the US President Donald Trump saying, he has to invite the girls' team to the women's team with the men because the men wanted to, but then the women declined. And yeah, it's kind of overshadowed the greatness of like both things, both teams winning. But yeah, it was quite a shame. And then like the men's team have been doing interviews after that, and it hasn't been going to plan. So yeah, well done to both teams, but it has been a shame. Also, yesterday, 15 seconds left for the ad break, guys. Stephen Bunting silenced his critics as he inflicted the third final defeat of the season on Jean Van Veen to win night 4 of the Premier League draws in Belfast. So yeah, it was an amazing performance from Bunting, but Jean Van Veen has lost again in the final. So yeah, I am going to be going to an ad break now, so I will leave you guys to it. Assalamu alaikum, guys. We are back. I felt like I was talking too much about the Cricket World Cup. Okay, guys, it's just right now, it's a really good tournament to talk about. It's been very interesting, and I just had a lot to say about it. But we're going to move on to the boxing, and then I'm going to talk about the games that are happening over the weekend and the week. So, boxing, there was a bit of drama the past week about Conor Benn leaving Eddie Hearn's promotion and then joining Dana White's promotion Zuffa. He said it was a life-changing deal, but Hearn stood by Benn's side through his drug issues. So, for people that don't know, Conor Benn, for the past couple of years, he got banned from boxing because there was a drug allegation with him. And, Eddie Hearn was by his side throughout this whole thing. He had two fights with Chris Eubank Jr. Chris Eubank Jr. won the first one, and then Ben came back and he won the second one. And so for Ben to leave Eddie Hearn's promotion after this, after everything that's happened, it was one of those where it's like damn, because how is that happening? But Ben did say it's a life-changing deal for him. And Ben joins Zuffa, and it's one fight deal is worth $15 million. So at the same time, you kind of do expect why someone would move on. But on Thursday, Frank Warren has confirmed he's considering taking legal action against Saudi Arabian-owned seller and American company TKO. Warren has enjoyed a fruitful partnership with Turki Al-Shah and Seller in recent years, but the rival of Dana White's fronted Zuffa Boxing, jointly owned by Seller and TKO, has caused tension behind the scenes. Seller is a Saudi state-owned entertainment company, and TKO Group Holdings is a media giant that owns UFC and WWE. So Warren alleges Seller and TKO went behind his back to form Zuffa Boxing, which he claims breaches of contracts he had already signed with the two entities. So Warren's Queensberry's promotions, according to the Telegraph, allege as much as $1 billion, so £339, could have been lost in potential earnings. So that's a bit of drama there, isn't it? There was boxing on the early hours of Sunday morning and then late Sunday evening. So in the early hours of Sunday morning, Ryan Garcia captured his first major world title with a dominant unanimous decision victory over Mario Barrios to become the new WBC welterweight champion. He made a blistering start in Las Vegas. He dropped the contest across. It was amazing throughout. He knocked out the guy with in the inside opening 30 seconds, but then the fight went the full distance and Garcia won. And then later that evening, Clarissa Shields successfully defended her undisputed heavyweight crown with a unanimous points win over fellow American Franchon Cruz Duzon. Fighting in the first bout of her $8 million multi-fight deal, Shields dominated throughout, winning 190 on all three judges' scorecards to retain her WBO, WBA, IBF, and WBC titles and remain unbeaten after 18 professional fights. And then also yesterday, Katie Taylor, so an amazing women's boxer, amazing fighter, announced that she will retire following a final fight in Dublin this summer. Taylor is coming off a trilogy fight victory over Miranda Serrano and is eyeing a farewell fight at the iconic Cop Park in Dublin. She's an undisputed world superweight little champion. Her opponent and final contest are yet to be confirmed. I feel like this is a big shame for women's boxing in general, but Taylor is 40 plus, so it does make sense. But she's done a lot for women's boxing. So has Clarissa Shields. I remember Clarissa Shields was in the first women's boxing card on Sky Sports, and she beat Savannah Marshall. And honestly, the build up to that fight was incredible. It was what they would do for the men's fights, and that's what it's needed, because everyone loves boxing. If you give the same type of advertising and promotion to a women's fight, to a women's card, like you do to a men's card, you will probably get the same amount of numbers, because boxing is entertaining for everyone. You can't say this guy's better than this guy, and just because he's a man. It's boxing, if you want to see a knockout, you can see that in both. So I'm really sad that Katie Taylor is retiring this summer, but obviously I hope that she does have a farewell fairy tale ending. But you never know with boxing. So I will move on to the football. I did talk about racism in the Champions League last week, and then there was racism in the Premier League over the weekend, which is a shame. Like, it's really frustrating that we're still in 2026 and this type of stuff is happening. So over the weekend, Wolves striker Tala Arkawana and Sunderland winger Romain Muldub have become the latest Premier League players to be sent racist abuse on social media. On an appalling weekend, with 4 footballers from the top tier of the English game were targeted. So Arakada and Mundo detailed their experiences on Sunday, a day after Burnley midfielder Hannibal Mejri and Chelsea defender Wesley Fofana both received racist abuse on Instagram after their sides drew 1-1 at Stamford Bridge. So yeah, it is such a shame that things like this is still happening, because like in the Wolves game, Wolves were drawing with Crystal Palace. They were awarded a penalty which Tuller took and he missed. The penalty got saved. It was a poor penalty, but it's not a penalty. Like, nothing deserves racial abuse. So when that type of stuff happens, it's just like, it's such a shame. But yeah, he got racially abused, and the Sunderland player and the Chelsea and Burnley player. And then I wrote an article about it. I just talked about how this thing happened. Like, it was a news story basically talking about everything that's happened, and then like how, you know, football's meant to be a safe space, but right now when stuff like this happens, it isn't. Like, I know that these footballers, they go on this pitch to form, but at the same time, they fell in love with the game when they were younger, and that's probably because they wanted to get away from stuff, and now they were really good, and now they're professional in it. So yeah, it is really a shame. It kind of ruins the game. But yeah, on Monday, the Women's FA Cup quarter-final draws took place. Charlton Athletic, so they're top of the WSL2, will face Liverpool, who are second bottom from WSL1. So yeah, Chelsea will face Tottenham. After Tottenham on Monday, oh my gosh, that was one of the best games I've seen. So Tottenham played London City Lionesses. London City Lionesses winning 2-0. Tottenham made it 2-2. The game went to extra time. Then it went to penalties, and it was 9-8 to Tottenham. So none of the sides would miss it. And then finally, London City Lionesses player missed. So yeah, it was a shame, but it was a great game. And then Arsenal will face Brighton, and Birmingham City will face Manchester City. So yeah, I can't wait for these type of games. I really hope that a team that hasn't made the past couple of finals beats in the final. So what I'm trying to say is I hope Liverpool go to the final, but you never know. I think the game against Charlton Athletic, they shouldn't take that lightly. I think they should take it seriously, and they should, you know, think, oh, this is a challenge, and show up, because a lot of times when you do face a team that's like from a bottom league, you overestimate them. Like, you don't think they're good, and then they show up and they win. So yeah, hopefully that's not the case this time around. So now I am going to talk about the tennis, and then I will move on to what's happening this weekend and then the week ahead. So yesterday, British number 3 actually, Katie Bolter secured her 7th consecutive win on the WTA Tour as Camilla Ostrava retired during the second round match at the Marinda Open. Bolter, who won the Ostrava Open this month, had taken the first set 6-3 in Mexico when Colombian Ostrava called for the physio and decided not to continue. So while number 69 Bolter will face Italian top seed Jasmine Paulino, Australian Priscilla Hahn in the quarterfinals today. And yeah, on Wednesday, to British number... Wait, that is quite bizarre, isn't it? I think what I was meant to try to say was that Jack Draper lost on Wednesday. He was out for a really long time. He didn't play the American Open because I think he had like a shoulder injury, and now he's returned, and he cut his hair off, so he's bald, and he has like this new look. But he lost just on Wednesday, so now he's out of the Dubai Open. So yeah, on Saturday, because I did touch on it this last week, so I feel like I have to update. Carlos Alcaraz thrashed Arthur Fils inside 50 minutes to maintain his unbeaten start to 2026 and win the Qatar Open in Doha. So the Spanish top seed Alcaraz was ruthless from start to finish, converting 5 out of 7 breakpoints as he blew Francis Sousa away in a 6-2, 6-1 victory. So the win was the shortest of Alcaraz's career in completed matches and was his 12th of the season, as he followed up his last month's Australian Open shot with his 26th career title, which is unreal, absolutely amazing. So also Jessica Pegula says she could not have asked for a better start to the 2026 after beating Elena Rosovich in 9 straight sets to win the Dubai Tennis Championships. American 4th seed Pegula had reached the semi-finals of Brisbane International and Australian Open in January, before securing her first title of the year with a 6-2, 6-4 win over the Ukrainian 7th seed Serena in Dubai on Saturday. And yeah, I saw this incredible stat about Pegula. It was quite funny to actually, before the final happened, on Twitter, Pegula was like, "Oh, I'm the only one that hasn't won anything this year," and then she finally won something, so it was incredible. But yeah, the win saw Pegula become the third American to win in Dubai after Lindsay Zohan and three-time champion Venus Williams. Also, what I found out was Jessica Pegula might become the richest athlete across sports, because once her parents retire, she'll inherit a massive $11 million empire in addition to her current prize money earnings. So yeah, Pegula does have some rich parents, but also she's an incredible tennis player. So yeah, the term nepo baby doesn't really apply to this. I do not know, but yeah, now we are finally going to the sports that will be taking place over the weekend and the following week. So today, Wolves play Aston Villa at 8 p.m. So it's a big West Midlands derby, but is it really big anymore? That's like the type of question I was asking myself. Like, I knew I was going to talk about this today, because Villa beat Wolves like nearly every time, and it's not really that much of a competition anymore, because like if you look at league positions, Villa are third, and where are Wolves? They're bottom, they're 20th. They're getting relegated. While Villa have a chance to win the Premier League, yeah, it's like slim chances, but they have more of a chance of winning the Premier League than Wolves have of staying up, which if you think about it is quite bizarre. But yeah, the last time these two sides played in the Premier League, Aston Villa won 1-0, and that was this season. Last season, Wolves won 2-0 at home, and Aston Villa won 3-1 at home. Before that, Aston Villa won 2-0 at home, and they drew 1-1 at the Molineux. Now, I did talk about league positions, but then I was looking at like other type of stats as well, and this is like the difference I'm trying to talk about here, which is Wolves have only won one game this season. Aston Villa have won 15. Wolves have drawn 7 games. Aston Villa have drawn 6. Similar, but Wolves have lost 20 games. Aston Villa have only lost 6. So yeah, Wolves have scored 18 goals this season. Aston Villa have scored 38. So yeah, it's like, is it really a rivalry anymore? And then I was thinking like, it was like the other day, on Tuesday, it was West Brom's sat their manager, Eric Ramsey, as he was winless in like 10 games. And I was thinking, when Wolves do go down to the Championship, that's like the type of derby that you wanted to see, but you're not going to really see it anymore, because obviously West Brom are most likely to get relegated. So yeah, which is a shame. But we're going to move on to the Premier League Saturday games, and then I'll do my predictions over them. So on Saturday, Bournemouth plays Sunderland at 12:30. I think this might end like either a 1-1 or a 2-1 to Sunderland. And then Burnley play Brentford. I think Brentford are winning that 2-0. Brentford's manager Keith Andrews signed a new long-term contract yesterday, and yeah, loads of people expected them to be, in the relegation zone, battling for a place in this league. But they're currently 7th, which is like, Keith Andrews, you've done an amazing job, and you thoroughly deserve any contract. So well done on that. So yeah, I think it makes a lot of people think that you shouldn't really doubt someone. Because yeah, Keith Andrews coming into this didn't have a lot of experience, like managerial wise, but he's done an amazing job with Brentford. So it's like, you never know how these managers will turn out. So yeah, along with that, Liverpool play West Ham at 3. West Ham are in the relegation zone. Liverpool are not. Liverpool are like 6th right now. Yeah, they need a win. Liverpool need a win to get like their Champions League hopes back into line. But it is one of those where Manchester United are playing incredibly well right now. They are unbeaten with Michael Carrick in charge. But yeah, I'm hoping for a Liverpool win, and if Liverpool do not win, then that is troubling to see. But yeah, moving on to that, Newcastle play Everton. I do think Newcastle will win that, probably like 2-0, 2-1. And Leeds play Manchester City at 5:30. I think Manchester City will win. I do think it will be a lot closer than people do assume, because Leeds have been putting up a good fight. I remember them making Liverpool drop points. So yeah, they are a great team, to be honest, but Manchester City should win. I think it might be a 3-1, but it will be a lot closer than people would think. So yeah, on Sunday it is March, that is my birthday month. But yeah, into a new month we have Brighton playing Nottingham Forest. I think that's going to be like a 2-1 or a 2-2, because it's quite close. Yeah, Nottingham Forest are battling for like relegation, but I do think after their triumph yesterday, they are through, so they are happy that they're through in like the last 16. So it's like they're happy. So it's like I think they're gonna be in good form. And yeah, Fulham play Spurs. That's gonna be a lot closer game too. Tottenham didn't really get the job done against Arsenal last week, and it was very poor from them, very very poor. But yeah, I think it might be a 2-1 to Fulham. Manchester United play Crystal Palace. For many teams like Chelsea and Liverpool, we're hoping that Manchester United drop points, but I think it might be a 2-0 to United. And then there's the big one. Arsenal play Chelsea at 4:30, and yeah, I think Arsenal will win. I think they might win like 3-1. I think it's gonna be a closer game compared to the Arsenal versus Tottenham game, but I don't think Chelsea have it in them to beat them. So yeah, we do have Premier League in the midweek this week. So on Tuesday, Bournemouth play Brentford, Everton play Burnley, and Wolves host Liverpool, which is going to be a cracker because then on the Friday, Wolves host Liverpool in the fifth round of the FA Cup. So yeah, on Wednesday, Aston Villa play Chelsea, Brighton play Arsenal, Fulham play West Ham, Manchester City play Nottingham Forest, and Newcastle play Manchester United. So there are a lot of good games on Wednesday, and then on Thursday, Spurs host Crystal Palace. So yeah, and we don't have a lot of women's football currently because there's an Asia Cup happening. But on Tuesday, the Lionesses return and they play Ukraine in Turkey live on ITV on 5 p.m. Can't wait to see the Lionesses back in action. I am a big fan of the Lionesses and what they've done for women's football in England and all over the world, to be honest. Now talking about the Cricket World Cup. Tomorrow, Sri Lanka play Pakistan in the 50th match of the tournament at 1:30. I think this match depends. Like it depends on how important it is. With how the New Zealand England game go. And yeah, right now once I was checking the score, which was it was like 12.3 over. New Zealand were like 107 for 3. So good position, but you also don't know how the batting pitch is. The pitch is when both sides bat onto it. So yeah, on Sunday Zimbabwe plays South Africa. That match doesn't really mean much because Zimbabwe are out and South Africa already through. And then India play West Indies, which is the most important match of the weekend because they're both battling out for a place in the semi-finals. So yeah, on Wednesday we have the first semi-final, which I can't tell you what it is right now because the group positions haven't been confirmed yet. And then on Thursday you have the second semi-final. So yeah, crazy. And then we all know the final is on Sunday. Can't wait for that. But yeah, we'll talk about more of that next week. And yeah, there is tennis happening. So the ATP 500 Dubai is still in action, along with the WTA 500 Merida and the ATP 500 Acapello, and then the WTA 250 Austin. And then netball also, for the netball fans out there today, London Pulse are playing Manchester Thunder, then Laura Lighting versus Lexington Nexus Dragons, and then Birmingham Panthers versus NIC Leeds Rhinos on Saturday. There's also a lot of golf that people may be interested in. That's going to be on Saturday and Sunday. And then there's plenty of golf and basketball, football, cricket, tennis, rugby, and darts all in action for this week. So we have a lot of sports. On Thursday, the Premier League darts returns in Cardiff, so another cracker awaits. And yeah, will this be the time that Luke Littler finally wins a night? Because he has been really poor. On Sunday, he did win a title. He won the first Polish Open title, and that was great for him. But then the Premier Leagues, he hasn't been doing the best. So I don't know what's happening there, but it is nice to see. I did speak about this last week. It is nice to see other players doing well, but then it also shows is Luke Littler in bad form? Has he lost his touch? And I'm scared to say something like that, but yeah, I don't know. I do think that it's probably just one of those where Littler's a bit fatigued. And it's just one of those where it's going to take him a time, but you don't lose your class. I don't think you do have bad form, but form is temporary and class is permanent. And I do love that type of quote. The mic is messing up again. I do love that type of quote because it relates to a lot of stuff like cricket and football. So it's if you're a good player you will, overcome bad form. But then it does get to a point where, are we always going to use that? I know there's been a lot of discussion with like Balarazam. Has he lost his class, or is it just bad form? And then people do compare it to like Virat Kohli and how he hadn't made like 100 in like 2 years, and then he did, and he was amazing. And then he ended his career on his own terms when they won the World Cup, which is great to see. And yeah, it's really nice to see that when a professional athlete ends like their career on their own terms. So I can talk about like Katie Taylor, for example, or like even in wrestling. Don't know if we have many wrestling fans listening right now, but AJ Styles recently retired. He had his last wrestling match, the Royal Rumble. He lost that match, but it was quite nice to see. But not that he lost, but that he ended his career on his own terms. No one rushed him out, and he started his WWE career at the Royal Rumble, and then he ended his career at the Royal Rumble, which is nice to see. And yeah, and then on Monday, it was Monday Night Raw, he got inducted into the 2026 Hall of Fame, and like all the wrestlers came out and showed their support. So yeah, it was honestly amazing. And also like John Cena, he decided that the last year was this last year was his last, because he couldn't compete with like these wrestlers anymore, which was a shame. But also like he knows that wrestling is too much for him right now, and he ended it, which was a shame because he is one of the best wrestlers ever. But it's nice to see that he knew that his time was up, and yeah, very nice to see that. And I will talk about Formula One. Formula One doesn't start until the next weekend, but I think it's the most exciting season. I've been speaking to a lot of people, and they're saying this is the best time to become a Formula One fan because there's been like a lot of changes, and there has been like a story be like, has the new Formula One rules changed, like damaged its status and the ultimate challenge for a racing driver? And then like the top drivers gave their opinions. So Max Verstappen was like, not Formula One, ridiculous complex, says Lewis Hamilton. The chef could drive the car at that speed, says Fernando Alonso. Not the purest form of driving, says Lando Norris. So yeah, I think it's quite bizarre. Like the best racers, the drivers, are saying stuff like this. So this means that this season it might be a lot closer, and the favourites might not be the favourites anymore. So Max Verstappen might not win. Lando Norris, the reigning champion, might not win. So this might be the season for the underdogs. So like I read somewhere, it's like if you have the best car that suits these conditions, you might win it for the next 5 years. And I was like, damn, because in Formula One, if you do have the best car, you are most likely to win. So like McLaren, they won the last two constructors championships, and then last year they finally won the championship. So Lando Norris won it. But yeah, the season before that, Max Verstappen won, but it should have been like a thing of where Lando Norris should have won it again. But yeah, before jumping into a conclusion that F1 has been ruined by what amounts to the biggest rule change in the sport's history, it's important to establish a frame of reference. I have to sum this up, but it's a very bizarre thing because there's been a lot of changes to Formula One. People are saying it's ruined the sport, but also people are saying that it's making it a lot more closer in terms of rivalries and everything. But yeah, the new cars have less downforce than last year, so they have less grip, but the drivers are still on the limit of the grip in the corners. So yeah, I think the drivers just need to change their approach. But yeah, that is the end of this show. I will leave you guys to it, and hopefully I see you next week, inshallah. And I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you soon, inshallah. And yeah, bye guys.